All right. Welcome to episode 53 of the No Shelf Control podcast. I'm Lindsey Sparks, here with my lovely co-author and co-host, Lindsey Pogue.
Greetings.
Today we have bestselling romance or women, how, I don't know how to categorize.
Okay, no, I love this. My new, so would you like my new tag?
Yes.
Yeah, do it.
Contemporary romance fiction. Doesn't that just sound so fun?
It does. Okay, so we have bestselling contemporary romance fiction author Jennifer Probst with us to chat about her new release, The Secret Love Letters of Olivia Moretti. And before we dive in, I want to remind everybody that this is absolutely not a spoiler-free zone. There will be spoilers for the book that we're discussing. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. And we'll give you just like a final little warning before we actually dive into like talking about the book in the second half of the show. So if you are not familiar with Jennifer Probst, Jennifer wrote her first book at 12 years old. She found it in a folder. This sounds like LP, read it to her classmates and hasn't stopped writing since. She holds a master's in English literature and lives in the beautiful Hudson Valley in upstate New York. Her family keeps her active, stressed, joyous, and sad. Boy, can I relate to that. And the fact that her house will never be truly clean. Her passions include horse racing, Scrabble, rescue dogs, Italian food, and wine. Not necessarily in that order. She is the New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestselling author of contemporary romance fiction. There it is. She was thrilled her book, The Marriage Bargain, spent 26 weeks on the New York Times. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Her work has been translated in over a dozen countries, sold over 1 million copies, and was dubbed a romance phenom by Kirkus Reviews. And she has over 50 books published. Has that number changed?
I'm working on 52 now. So
all right.
Yes. Chugging along.
Yeah.
And you know, guys, I know you know when people read things about you and you're like, damn, that sounds like so good.
Yeah.
And while you're in the weeds with your new book and you're like, I suck.
Yes. Yes.
So that's where I'm at right now. So that was really nice to hear that. I did stuff.
Yeah. I can write.
Yeah. Yeah. But it never feels, it's like each time, it's like the first time. It's like, oh, this is terrible. Nobody's going to like this. This is the one that's going to suck.
Yeah. Yeah. The good and the bad. And then that time when you're like, I am a living genius. You know? my husband's like, oh, we're on the ego trip today. And then the next day I'm the amoeba underneath the pond scum, you know?
Oh, yes.
I love that.
So yeah, welcome to the show, Jennifer. We're so excited to have you here.
Super
already
excited.
Started.
Yeah.
I know, just dove right in there.
That's great.
No, I love it. And I was kind of looking at your website earlier, and I saw the really cool video. You had like an interview. I'm not sure who did it, but it was really cool to kind of see, your behind the scenes and just your story. And that was really cool. That was really cool.
Thank you. You know where that came from. I used to get book trailers done, and the guy, Adam, he runs Film 14, I think it is. It's called. It's on my website. And he did like 2 book trailers for me, and they're kind of like little movie previews. They're really cool. And he came to me and he goes, we can do something called this author video, and we make it like a little mini movie, and it introduces you to people. So it was just a really cool experience. I was working on my branding, and I was like, this is a way where I don't have to sell myself on the street corner every time. I could just say, go to the video. And the guy was so nice. I mean, the cameraman was there with me for 8 hours. He made me change into 3 different outfits, and I got to hang with my dog. And it was this really interesting experience. So I just love it. It's just kind of up there, and it's a nice way to kind of like connect with readers without, any hard sell. It's just out there.
Yeah. And it's really cool because it's really smart for marketing for sure, because it really shows you as a person, not just like someone who writes like this big like author who writes books, it's like they get to really see you like in your element. So it's really cool.
Yeah. I love branding and marketing for like outside the box. I'm always looking for the next big thing or the next thing that nobody else did, which is hard.
No, that's smart. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to have you. I think this is both of our first time. I don't know if that's right proper grammar, but anyway, this is the first time both of us have actually read one of your books. So it was a delightful surprise. So I'm excited to.
Yeah, it was great. It was
cool.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, at least I've seen your name all over the place, but I just haven't had the opportunity, and so it was just really fun to
and
dive
other
in.
than books for this podcast, I rarely venture out of my sci-fi fantasy comfort zone. So
yeah.
I know how that is. It's like when you love something, it
Yeah.
takes a lot to just kind of like try something else. So I'm like really freaking honored. Pretty cool.
I love it.
So before we get like going too much, what is everybody drinking on this fine morning or afternoon?
I
or
am on my cup of coffee. I have a Walt Disney mug that says Vision.
Oh, perfect.
Which
Oh.
I love, a little thing, and it's coconut mocha. It's
Ooh.
late in the afternoon, so I go for flavored. So yes,
Good for you.
yeah.
Good for you.
How about you
That's
guys?
awesome. I just have trusty water. Nothing fancy, although it is pink and matches my shirt. So
Yeah.
It is. You're very
let's
pink.
pretend I did that on purpose just for fun. But that's all I got.
Yeah,
How about
I
you,
also just water.
Coffee. Oh.
No, not even coffee, just water. I've had a morning. So we lost our power. And I have two very, very small children, and I can't do a podcast without help, or it just is impossible. And so my mom was going to come out, but the power was off. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to like pack the kids into the car and we're going to come up there. But then I was like, I don't know how to open the garage door.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, I'm going to die if the world ends. We have a generator, but I don't know how to start it.
You sound just like me. We get snowstorms here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm one of those like ridiculous heroines that couldn't save themselves. I always tell my kids, don't say this to anybody, but mommy would be the first to go in a zombie apocalypse. Like I don't have survival skills for that. I don't know. So when did you get the power back on? Was it a long time?
It was a little over an hour, I think, that it was out, and then it came back. And I was like, all right, get on over here, mom. Oh my gosh. But it was just like that internal stress, even though nothing actually changed. I didn't have to do anything.
It doesn't matter. No power. It's like everything is by power. You're like, oh, I want to open the fridge. No power. Oh, I want, right? It's like the world shuts down.
Yeah. And then it's extra annoying here at our house because we have terrible cell service. And so if the Wi-Fi is down, I can't do anything on the internet. I can't check like the power company to see what time they're estimating to have the power back or any of that stuff. So I'm just texting my neighbor like, can you please look it up for me?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's rough.
Anyway, it's back. Everything's good. It's just been really stormy. There's like a lake in our backyard. You know.
What state are you from? What state?
Washington.
Oh, no wonder. Okay. So there's been crazy weather everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that was my morning. So
That's
super fun.
Oh
yeah. And I was in the middle of formatting a book. And so it like my computer just goes womp.
That's
terrifying. I haven't even worked up the courage. So thankfully it's on Atticus, which is in the cloud. So it's not actually on my computer. So I don't have to save it. It just like auto saves. So I'm hoping that everything is exactly as I had it the last time I saw it, but I'm a little bit scared to go look.
Isn't in the cloud like so scary? Like in the cloud scares the living hell out of me. I'm like, I know it's there, but will I ever find it?
Yeah.
With everyone else's
cloud
clouds,
is really big.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever had one of those disasters where you lose a chapter, or you lose something? We all have, right? Yeah. Okay. I could wake up screaming from that, and that must have been like a decade ago. So
Well,
it's
I like compulsively save things in multiple
Yes.
places. And then I have the problem of being like, wait, I don't know if this is the most recent version
Yep.
or if I didn't save it
Yes.
here. Or where did I
Yes.
save the most recent version?
Yep.
yes. Okay. I don't feel so alone anymore.
Yeah,
'cause
no,
I feel like a maniac.
That's a thing.
you know.
That's a thing. Yeah.
Oh,
Hashtag author problems, ladies.
I know. So, speaking of saving our work, what are you
Yeah.
guys working on right now?
Oh yeah, Jennifer, you got anything you can share with us, or?
Oh yeah. So I've got a new 3-book series coming out with Amazon Montlake, and the first one comes out April. We're in March now. Yeah. So
Mhm.
next month. So
Nice.
April is the next one. And then the second one comes out in September. It's called the Twist of Fate series. So the first one is Meant to Be, and the second one is So It Goes. And I'm working on book 3. The
Nice.
final, friend, the final kind of, that's called Save the Best for Last.
Oh, perfect.
If these are, do they have like a little bit of a fantasy element if there's fate?
Yes.
involved?
Well, yes, it's just I kind of explore that whole idea in life where you're trucking along and you've got everything planned, and even if things are good, nothing's changed. And then something, like I call it fate, like just steps in and messes up your life and puts you on a whole different path. But then it always ends up so much better. But you wouldn't have gone that path if you were, because we don't like change a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be really fun to kind of like take it. And I think the best part that I love about the 3-book series, it's about 3 college friends who form this multimedia conglomerate called Quench, and it's all women's self-care,
Nice.
like everything to do with, so it's very like female empowerment.
Mm.
And I love that sometimes, because I do love a billionaire. You know how many billionaires I write, but I just, sometimes it's so much fun to just like,
Yeah.
the women need nothing from anybody.
Yeah.
Like it's just what they seek out. Like they have their own kind of livelihood, and they're pretty well satisfied. So again, that's where the fate comes in.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's been fun to kind of do something different. I just wish the title of the book was better, because I'm having trouble writing this one. I just hit a speed bump. I think it was the winter, and my family came down with COVID.
Mhm.
And I was just in that mode where I would just like have a box of Cheez-Its, and that's like not the best energy inducing.
Not at all. I do the
know.
same thing.
Yeah, sour cream and onion potato chip. Like I just didn't care.
Oh, yeah.
So it just, I was in a bad space. I was like, I got to get myself back on track and write this book. So that's where I'm at right now.
Oh my goodness, that's too
Yeah.
funny.
Cheddar and sour cream ruffles for me.
Oh God, they're
Those are
so
good too.
good. I love salt.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's my downfall for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny because I used to be a sweet person and I'm really not anymore. It's just like, I'm all about the salt.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you guys? What are you working on?
LP?
I would love to say I've been writing more on Sea of Storms, which is kind of my Viking-esque historical fantasy
Book 2.
dystopian book. Yeah. But I haven't gotten to work on that yet this week. But I'm hoping tomorrow, or no, not tomorrow. I'm doing Yahtzee with my grandma tomorrow, guys. So that is not going to be a writing day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I try and go and like spend part of the day with her every couple weeks or something. But anyways, Thursday's going to be my writing day. Today, actually, I was making a book trailer, or like kind of like what you were talking about earlier, Jennifer. So it's my first one, and it was kind of like stressful and overwhelming, but I did it. And so I'm excited. It's for my my cover reveal in a couple weeks.
Oh, yay.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. That's exciting.
Yeah. And then when you see it, you'll be like, oh, this video was definitely not done by
Oh, I will not.
I'm so
I did a
excited
whole
for this
bunch on
cover
my
reveal.
own.
I talked
think
about
it
it
came out great. Yeah, it's gonna
yesterday.
be great.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's gonna be good.
Gotta hone the skills. But anyway, yeah, so figure I gotta spread my wings a little bit with that. Anyway, what about you, Linz? What are you working on? Other than power outages.
What
and
am I working
children.
on? Oh, I like you know me, a million little things. I am working on character portraits.
Oh, that's the rabbit hole we talked about last time.
So that's my current like not at my computer project that I'm working on when I'm watching the littles. So I do that on my phone. So I've transitioned from character portraits for Echo World to character portraits for Atlantis legacy stuff. So that's been fun. I just made Hades Very
Nice.
good looking alien man. Anyway, I am also I finished the skeleton draft for Blood of the Broken, which
Very
is the
cool.
5th Atlantis book. And so I'm cleaning up the transcription for that this week. And I sent Song of Scarabs and Fallen Stars to my ARC team. Yay!
Yay.
And so far the response has been extremely like rabid.
Good. That's a good thing.
This is the first book that has included a trigger, like an author's note with a trigger warning at the beginning. Lindsay has read it, so she understands.
Yeah.
And so my ARC team was saying that they're like, I am a little bit scared, but I'm also excited.
Yeah. No,
This
it's
is an
just
appropriate response.
yeah. It's very kind of like gritty, kind of twisted, like historical stuff. So it's like in this day and age, it could be, just off-putting, but
Like, so it's edgier, but
Yeah.
like nowadays people are, which I think is a good thing. We never really worried about trigger
Yeah, I
warnings
know.
before. And once
Yeah.
they started popping up is when, I was thinking about an older book that had, oh my gosh, so much like raw emotion. I was like, oh my Lord, I should have put a
Yeah.
trigger warning on that, but it wasn't really
The thing,
going
yeah,
on
yeah,
by
yeah.
that time. So I think it's good, but I love edgier. That's fun.
Yeah, it gets
Right?
gets a little dark in there for a while.
well, I mean, it's ancient Egyptian times, so they're not, it's not like they had.
They don't
a lot
hold
of-
back on the torture. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm really excited. I'm really excited about hearing more from my readers about what they think of that one. So that's been fun. So that's all I've got going on, I think. Yep.
All right.
Oh, yes, but what is next? What are you guys reading right now?
I think Jennifer has a dog
Sorry,
fight.
She does have
No,
a
you're fine.
So sorry, guys.
No,
It's okay.
please
Getting
don't.
locked out. There we go.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Oh, they're like toddlers.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's like, I think she has a dog fight to put out over here.
I I told them to be good. They don't listen.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Wait, what are we reading? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Sorry.
What are
Oh,
we
all right,
reading?
Jennifer. Are you one of those that you can work and read at the same time?
I am like a crack addict when it comes to books. I'm on the opposite. I'm just like very vocal about not that I don't respect. I mean, you have to do what you have to do, but I just feel like you have to read when you're writing. And I get like maybe you don't want to read in the same genre or something because of some, but I just read every single genre. So I read every night. I finish like
Nice.
a book a week easy. But that's also because I fight with my husband over the remote. So I'm like, fine, watch the stupid airline disasters. I'm reading, the airline disasters before vacation. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. You have issues. So what am I reading right now? I just noted it down because I just finished 2 books. I finished The Husbands by Chandler Baker. That was a Reese's book club pick.
Okay.
That was the coolest idea. It was like the Stepford Wives, but it was the husbands.
Oh,
And
interesting.
the dream was, how women have to like do everything, like the childcare, the cleaning. And even if you have somebody good, they kind of want kudos for doing the dishes or they don't do it well. And so she moves into this neighborhood and all the guys are talking about pantry cleaning and this and it's like this mystery and you find out they're kind of like doing hypnosis or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Have these perfect husbands. Oh man, I finished that. Like I was like, yeah. Even though my husband's really good, I don't know where he came from. Like he's a catch with that. I mean, I'll write and he'll make dinner like every night. So I'm not
That's
complaining,
awesome.
but it was a really cool concept.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember feeling that way when I first read the Bromance Book Club. I don't know if you ever read that, but I always
I
thought
love
that
that
was
series.
such a clever,
Love it.
awesome take on book clubs because I'm like, guys don't do
So-
that. I mean, I'm sure some do, but you know what I mean? Like it was just
Oh,
so
yeah.
cool to see it turned on its head. So I like those clever ideas for sure.
Oh, those books are so good. And you're right. When an author does something different like that, you just shake in your head like, yes. And of course, I've been saying, the last romance that I read was The Love Hypothesis. And I really liked that. I like the whole science kind of,
I've heard that one's really good.
Yeah, it was really good. And I think her second one is getting some really good reviews too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's always like a romance, a thriller, and then I've always got self-help and craft like on the thing. And I kind of like read as I write, I don't plot. I'm just like, what do I feel like reading today?
Oh, nice.
And some people like, it's cool, they'll make a spreadsheet. Well, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I think that's really cool also.
I was just trying to think. I'm kind of on a Sarina Bowen kick. And you know how, because on Audible, I never really kind of like, I don't know, just heard or figured out what the whole Audible Plus was like. I didn't actually know I was an Audible Plus member. So then I was looking at all these free books that you get, like, because I'm not in KU, I'm not in Kindle Unlimited. So I'm just not, I don't think like that, like there's all these, this like plethora of like free books that you can listen to. So anyways, I read some of her stuff before and I really enjoyed it, but then she has this whole series that I have been going through the audiobooks, and I really like them because I know this is something that you had mentioned, Jennifer, and your books, you really kind of like to write about like raw emotion and real life, more grittier, harder things. And she kind of does that too, which is fun. And I kind of like to write about that too. So anyways, I'm enjoying, going through some of her books. There was one that I just listened to that was a really good, really endearing, good male romance, which was The Understatement of the Year. So anyways, I really recommend that one to anybody who likes that. But
fun to binge on an author that it's so much fun. Like sometimes like you have their voice kind of like in your head.
Yeah. Well, and especially because, I've been doing so much at the computer and, doing all the admin stuff that it's just nice to have it in the background and be able to enjoy story when I'm sitting here doing things I don't necessarily want to be doing.
Yes, totally get it.
Anyway. Yeah. How about you, Linz? Have you been listening to anything?
I actually am back in, I am different or the opposite, I guess, of you, Jennifer, in that when I'm at least when I'm rough drafting, I can't read other people's books. I can't read any books. I think I just immerse so fully. I have a little bit of a crazy brain, but I get so obsessed with a story that I can't switch. I get like completely immersed in my own stuff. It's like, it feels a little bit incestuous. I'm just obsessed with my own head. But so I finished my skeleton draft, my rough draft for the latest book. So now I feel like I have a little more brain space. So I am resuming Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which I only have a couple hours left of that in audio. And I just read LP's City of Ruin beta read. That's the first book in her Ruined Lands, new spin-off series from the Forgotten Lands, and it's so good, and I'm so excited for people to read it. And I just realized I have to send you my feedback.
Oh, good, you finished it. Yeah.
Yes, I did. I finished it a couple days ago.
Fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. It totally nails the Beauty and the Beast meets Jane Eyre thing.
Good, I'm glad.
Oh,
okay.
You don't have to say anything more than that. Right? Oh my gosh, that's like perfection.
Yeah.
It's so nice that you have each other too. It's so nice to have somebody that like you can trust with your writing. Like that's even more than a beta reader. It's really cool.
Well, and then LF and I, we actually started publishing because our first series that we published was co-authored together. So we've been on, about the last 10 years, we've been on quite the journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
that's
good.
so cool.
We're really lucky for that for sure. So,
and what you were talking about reading, like that's okay. I mean, I've listened to just writers saying, "Oh, I never read. Like I don't read." That's that's like when you're focused, but you read when you're like off.
Mhm.
I'm talking like people are like, oh, I never read. I just have time to write. Like I never read. And I'm like, that just doesn't seem, yeah. So
Yeah.
Does not
that's
compute.
kind of what I have
Yeah, it
issues
does not
with.
compute. But I do feel like I went through a phase early on when I was writing where I couldn't, it's like when I first started writing seriously, I couldn't read a book without like dissecting it and, you know, like getting an icky taste or something. But I've long since moved past that. But I definitely had that period and I was like, oh, this has ruined reading for me. It hasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. When it's not fun, it really is a bummer. Like, yeah. I mean, I've read for just, you know, or sometimes when an author is so good, I have to put it down for a little while because I just get jealous in a good way. You know, I'm just like, okay, just mic drop. I'm done, you know. Then I have to go back to it. And then I get in a different mindset where I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's amazing that there's so many talented, amazing writers out there. It always makes me want to level up. So once the jealousy gets over with and I'm like, I'm never going to be that, then I'm like, okay, but you can be the best that you can be. I'm never going to be that. But so I kind of like to turn it back.
That's good. Yeah. That's a good state of mind to be in. And then I don't think that I'm reading anything else. Probably not reading anything else that I can think of. But other than the Secret Love Letters of Olivia Moretti, I did read that in audio. And this is not reading, but I do have some fun, exciting audiobook news, which is that so maybe this applies to the last segment, but I finally signed my narrator for I do everything independently. So I do all my audiobooks and everything, not like me, but I mean, I run them through me, I guess. I don't know. But I signed Stina Nielsen, who did the Blood and Ash audiobooks for my Fateless trilogy. I'm so excited.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. Amazing.
Yes. And to make it even better, I cannot stop geeking out about this. Dana Day, who did the Echo trilogy, which is the first series in that world, is coming back. There's a couple chapters from the main character from that series. And Julia Whalen, who did the second series in that world, who is like a mega star in the audiobook world, is coming back to do Kat's voice, who that was her series that she did. And I am so excited. And this audiobook is going to be so good.
Oh my gosh. When are they going to start production? Like when is your...
They're starting in, Stina's starting in May. So the audiobook's going to come out probably in the summer. And I think Julia's going to do hers in April, and Dana, I don't know when she's going to do it, but she's producing it. So
that's really great.
Their parts are much smaller, and I still am looking for a guy narrator. So, because I have one chapter from a character who is a big time character in the previous series. And so he's very beloved by,
so it's got to be perfect, right?
Readers. Yeah. I'm really excited. So
that is exciting.
Yeah, it's not something I'm reading right now, but you know, whatever.
Definitely worth sharing. Definitely.
Yes. I wanted to make sure I got that in there. Okay, so I believe we are ready to move into the book talk. So final spoiler reminder to all of our listeners, if you don't want to be spoiled on the Secret Love Letters of Olivia Moretti, maybe just stop listening right about now. But otherwise, stay with us because it's a really excellent book, and I'm really excited to talk.
Thank you.
I just realized I don't have my questions up. Super excited. So why don't you, Jennifer, do you want to go ahead and just kind of introduce the book and then we can dive in?
Yeah, sure. It's categorized as women's fiction. But there is romance in it. But the basic plot of the book is three sisters lose their mom. And over the years, they've become estranged. There's a lot of issues between them. And they go to the mom's house to pack up her house. And they discover a hidden trunk in the closet. And in the trunk is a stack of love letters from this man named just initial R, and a deed to a house on the Amalfi Coast in Positano. So the book really starts with the sisters being completely astonished because it's like their mom had a secret life that they didn't know about. So all three of them, who are also experiencing some of their own personal crises, one in a marriage, one in business career, one in love, they decide to go to Positano, see the house, and try to track down their mom's mysterious lover. So there is a little bit of a mystery as they go through Positano and try to find out who R is. And along the way, they start to heal some of their fragments in their relationship, and they come to terms with some big just reasons and ideas to move forward in their own life. So it's just a very heavily, I feel, richly textured book. There seems to be like a lot. It was a beast to write, but it was lovely to write. It was just lovely. There was a lot of kind of layers that I felt like I could sink my teeth into as a writer. Let's put it that way. A lot more craft in this book than I've had in a little while, which was fun and very scary.
Oh, it was so good. It reminded me of multiple different, not in like a derivative way, but it just like made me think of other stories that I had read or watched, or
it had the best of all the things you like in all the other books.
Like a little bit of Yaya, a little bit of like The Notebook, a little bit of, it was just like so, a little bit of oh, what is that, Mamma Mia?
Yes. Oh, I'm obsessed with Mamma Mia. I love it all. If I could make them sing, I would have.
I just noticed it's actually behind you on the shelf, I think, if I'm seeing it.
Oh
correctly.
yeah. Oh no, that's, are you seeing the Italian Summer? Oh, is it below there?
Oh, I have a whole, yes, there's
like right behind her head.
Yeah, very cool. Anyway. So, and I think, you're talking about, really like the layers of craft that you had, because you really, I mean, there are a lot of layers. The sisters' lives, you have Olivia's life, like, because you have stories within stories, right? So I was just curious, especially because there was a nice little twist at the end with Olivia telling the story even after she's gone. So that was really interesting. So I'm just curious, what was your inspiration for writing a story like this? Especially because you just mentioned that it, something you haven't gotten to do, write a story like this in a while. So it's just
Yeah, I think my whole life, when I was young and my dad brought home from the library a box of like used books, it was those, all those classic romances that I cut my teeth on that were so wonderful, from, Judith McCran's and also the 80s glamour book. There was like, they were really big at the time. There was a lot of like glitz and points of view and stuff like that. I think my whole life I wanted to write one of these epic stories, a love story that would span an entire lifetime. And I'm obsessed with love letters because I just think I have like a couple of books like on classic love letters, and just how intimate it really is, and how we forget like pen to paper. We're so used to text and email. I mean, people are breaking up with people over text. That guts me. It's guts me. I'm like, please, a sticky note. Remember, she broke up with somebody on the sticky note in Sex and the City. That was so bad, but at least it was written. So the idea of just like bringing in this romantic element of like love letters and this epic love story. And the thing is how things change. Like, I remember when you're 18 and you're just full of this passion and hormones, and they fall in love, and she's like, screw college, and I'm going to move to Italy, and we're going to get married, and we're going to be together. And like, there's no reason, which is so wonderful. And then when she goes, you see her like go back to college, and then life starts to intrude. She decides she wants a career, and maybe she doesn't want to be a wife that just lives in Italy and has this simple thing, but that doesn't take away somebody's love for something. So I really wanted to kind of investigate what that would look like on the page, and also how moms sacrifice for their children. So as she has children, this is a little piece of her life that nobody owns. And I think this is another question, like, I know book clubs like to discuss this, like, is it wrong or right? She didn't tell her current husband about this, about the love letters that she had, or this experience she had. She kept it to herself from her children, even the house she kept to herself. And I just love that idea that our moms are not who we think they are. you know, they have lives, but like to us, their mom, make me a sandwich, please.
Yeah.
You know, like I just know because I see my boys, and I know this sounds crazy, but from after writing this book, I had a talk with my sons. I've got now oh my God, they just turned 15 and 17. This is very scary. I hear you talk about your littles, and to me, they're still littles. But I literally
I
sat
don't
down with
want
my
that.
boys. I know. And I said to them, what would you think if you learned that mom and dad had done something or had this like separate life that you didn't know about? Would you feel upset that we didn't share that with you? Or would you understand that, well, that has nothing to do with me. That was before, you know, we had a very in-depth talk. And because I have something in my past that I know if it came out, it would probably shock my boys. No, it wasn't like I was a stripper in Vegas or anything.
Right.
It's just something that, you know, like as a fan, like as a mom today,
Yeah.
and I don't think my children had to know, if that makes sense. And so I was kind of feeling them out after writing this book, and they were just, my children are actually quite lovely. They were like, no, mom, they were like, you know, that was your time and we don't need to know about it. We just need to know like when we were born and when you are a mom. Like they're very old souls. So it kind of calmed me because I was like, should I tell them about this? They're getting older now. And what if, you know, what if they investigate this one day or whatever? So yeah, so I'm sorry, I got off course a little
No,
bit,
not at all.
but
That's fine.
It started to kind of, all those little layers of the book started actually coming back into me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I guess that's what it is, right? The craft of writing. And we put so much of ourselves in there, even if I don't think we realize it half the time. And it really, I think, at least for me, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel like that's when I feel like I'm writing a good story, is when it makes me stop and be like, oh shit, like this is legit. Like, you know, like you really think about it in your own terms, in your own life. And you're like, oh man, what would I do in this situation? Or what have I done? And, oh, I should have done that differently, or whatever it is, you know, like that's the whole interesting part of all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with this story in particular, it really made me think of, it made me think about how like a lot of times we don't really know somebody. Well, you can never really know somebody, but we don't really know somebody until they're gone. And that's when we really start to like search them out, who they were as a person. And it really made me think of when I lost my grandma, and I was tasked with going through all of the photos from all throughout her life and putting together a slideshow for the funeral. And it was like I was meeting her for the first time. You know, looking through these pictures of her like hanging out. She was a very tomboy. She was like hanging out with the boys, holding like a jug of liquor. Like this is in the 30s. A jug, like a ceramic jug. She was awesome. But it was so weird because I felt so much more connected to her once she was gone than I had. I mean, I loved her. She was my grandma. But it was never like that. It was like she was now my friend also, like not just
interesting,
like my grandma who's old and, you know, very nice and wears like sweaters that have little glittery things on, you know, like she was like, you know, a friend.
She was like a person outside of grandma. Yeah.
And it was, I mean, it's like shouldn't be an epiphany, but it was just like, I don't know. It just, this reminded me of that, how much more connected they became with who their mom was through this situation and her love letters, and like really seeing mom as a person and not just as mom, bring me a sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that story so much. And that's exactly right. Like when we lose somebody, I just feel we're just changed. And I think that the sisters would have never really healed their relationship because they really didn't have, they were having such separate lives that forced them to really reconnect and kind of examine how they went on different directions, and also miscommunication, which is so big with families and siblings and breaks my heart that so many years can go by where, you know, people, one sister saw it one way and another sister saw it, you know, between Devin and Bailey. They had something that happened between them, and they each had different perspectives of it. But look, they lost, like, you know, over a decade of being sisters because they were blaming kind of one didn't think anything was wrong, and the other one was blaming the sister. So yeah, I just think that it's, like you were saying, Lindsay, I like real life. I like, that's the stuff that happens every single day to us, you know? Yeah, okay. But I will say, I know my mom doesn't have a deed to the Amalfi Coast. That was the little glamour. I had to get them to Italy. I'm like, you gotta go to Italy. Like, that was the little bit, you know, kind of fictional part. But the relationships, I like to keep very, where, you know, readers just, that's what I wanted. Exactly what you had. They can relate to it.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, if we're talking, I mean, I was just thinking about even Rafe, like his character, he almost is like too good to be true in a way, because he is like the epitome of everything that you would want in, you know, a partner or someone to fall in love with, or to meet on your glorious, you know, summer away, your first love. You know, this guy who is like, he is just an old soul, and you know, he doesn't think twice about his looks or money or anything like that. And he's constantly trying to reel Olivia back in, right? And trying to like have her see things, you know, more realistically. And he just keeps getting the crappy end of everything. I feel like through the whole book.
But it's interesting with Rafe because like he was just like this gentle, lovely, gorgeous human. And, but also all of the changing was put on Olivia, like for them to be together. Olivia was always the one who had to change.
Yes.
And alter her path. And he was just going to continue doing what he was doing. Right. And so I think it was really like I would struggle back and forth with frustration with Olivia in this book for for kind of like repeatedly breaking Rafe's heart. Yes. Like, even if it was unintentionally, it was brutal, but it was also like, he was unwilling to change anything about his life. And it's, and I think it's like, that is like the norm so much in society that it doesn't stand out as much, but it really was, it like put all of the burden of change onto her, which is not a balanced relationship either. And so it's not that she was being incredibly selfish. Like, if you flip it, he could have been being incredibly selfish because he would not, like, it was not even an option at all.
Nobody has said that. And that is exactly right. Everything was put on her. And so also all the guilt was put on her.
Yes.
And I wrote him as simple like that. The only reason also he was that simple wasn't like he was in technology. He was in Italy in a very old school kind of, him and his dad on the fishing boat every day. It was a life he loved. And it was a life. And he was from the get-go, this is who I am. I'm not going anywhere. So it was kind of out there. And so when you're 18, 19, you're like, yeah, this is cool, man. I love this. But when you're like 22 and you can be in an art gallery in Manhattan with this exciting man and going to these interesting dinner conversations and you get reeled in, is that really her fault? It's just different. And so yeah, it was brutal, but he had to stay that way because that was just who he was. And there's not a lot of men out there. And I think that's that old world sign of, it was easier to make him like that realistically because he was really in his own world. But I had to give him, I mean, I toyed with having him like the tragic that I did toy with having him like never married or whatever. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Didn't feel right. I was like, he finds something happy ever after with somebody who knows who he is and accepts who he is.
And that made the ending less brutal too, because he had his people outside of Olivia. Like he wasn't just sitting there pining for her forever.
But I will say this, I don't remember what I was doing, but as I was listening to the end of the book, I was in my office doing something. And when he finds out that she died, I realized I had just stopped everything I was doing. I was just staring at my computer screen, just listening. Cause I was just like, oh my God, this poor guy. He's like, she screwed me over again. But really, no, she died. That's why.
Yeah,
she
I
didn't
think,
show
and
up.
I think that ending that
And it was just so touching to hear his,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, just
Yes.
his reaction. And he cried, and he, you know, and the girls had to sit there and watch this stranger who wasn't really a stranger because they learned so much about him, right, through letters and whatnot, that it was just a really beautiful scene. So he did a really good job with that.
She was the love of his life. She was the love of his life, even though he went off and and I will tell you guys that scene, I was telling somebody else this. When I was creating the book, I saw the scene very clearly with the 3 siblings opening up the trunk, and I knew about Positano and everything. Everything in the middle, I knew nothing about. Nothing. I didn't know how the story. The only thing I knew that I was writing towards that scene, I saw it so clearly. So this, like, the door opened, the older sister looking at him, and him saying, this is, I'm Raphael, I was your mother's. And I just saw it so clearly. So I was writing toward that scene the entire time. I felt like I was chasing that scene. That's never happened to me in a book, which was, it's so cool. Like, it's such a cool, magical career that can happen with that book, you know, and then I'm in the weeds with this one. I mean, it doesn't, like, if we could just bottle liquid lightning, right?
I know.
It just doesn't work like that.
Oh, I love that, liquid lightning, because I totally, whenever I have one of those like light bulb moments, I call it a muse strike, because it's like a lightning strike inside your brain that is just like, you just see it and you know it. And this is like, I just had one for a story that is unrelated to anything that I'm writing right now. And I was telling LP about it. I was just like, this is not fair.
You cannot have another series in the works right now.
I cannot. I have like 4. Do I have 4 series going right now?
I don't know, but it's more than.
I love it.
I cannot add another one.
So I just have to say too, I really liked the relationship between Pris and her husband. Was his name Garrett? No,
Garrett.
Garrett.
Yes,
Yeah.
Garrett.
I really liked that it wasn't some like really seedy, like cheating, horrible thing. It was just this more natural distance between 2 adults who have been together forever and who just kind of had to find their path. And I don't know why. I don't know what it was about their relationship, but I really enjoyed reading that. And I was really excited for her specifically. Like, I wanted them to find Rafe and all the stuff, but I also really wanted, like, I kept wanting to know what was going to happen with them, because I don't know what it is, but I feel like a lot of people don't write about husbands and wives who, at least in romance, that are already together and having issues and giving them a happily ever after. It's always finding a new person and, you know, X, Y, and Z happens. But it's really beautiful to read a story about people who've already been together for years, refinding and rekindling their love and figuring out, you know, specifically for her, because I know this was her journey, what she needed to do for herself in order to find happiness in herself so that she could, you know, be there for her husband who, you know,
who I also wanted to strangle part of the time. Like, really? Yeah, when they were having I loved how it like developed and turned out. But when they had their first like conversation
at dinner,
yes, I was just like, oh my God, I want to like scratch his eyeballs out right now.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, I'm just so tired. I don't want to talk about this. And it's just like,
typical career. Now, this is interesting because that first scene that I wrote, I was going to put that. This is blowing my mind. I'm so glad that I went the different direction. I listened to my instinct. I was going to have him cheating on her. And she was going to have, I was going exactly what you said, Lindsay. I was like, okay, because this is drama and this is whatever. And I kept saying, I just want them to be together. I just want it to be a portrait of a marriage where they drifted apart. They're the empty nesters. He's involved too much with work. He doesn't listen to her. She's lost herself. And so I'm like, maybe I don't need that extra drama. So that dinner that they had was going to be the offset of an affair. But what happened is it took a different direction, but I kept that dinner scene. So it was good that you felt those emotions, because I was going to go there, but then I kind of softened it.
How funny is that?
Yeah, because along the way, it just didn't feel right. I was like, no, they're meant to kind of like have their own journey. So it's nice to see that you were invested in that. To me, that was just such a secondary plot that I worried sometimes that it was a little boring, you know, that I was.
No, I really liked
So
I think,
that's cool.
yeah, I agree with LP where I really liked Priscilla's like journey,
Yeah.
her arc. I think that was my favorite. I mean, besides finding out about Olivia
Yeah.
and what was going on with her and just like being gutted by it repeatedly.
I've been writing so much romance and I love the happy ever after, but I really wanted to just write something that just pushed, again, that kind of just, I don't know, that bittersweet,
Mhm.
like, oh, it didn't end like I wanted it to,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's meant to be this way and it's all okay. It ends up okay.
Well, and at the same time, I mean, all three of the girls, they do well and they have their happily ever afters, right?
Yes,
So, I mean,
exactly.
I think that it totally works. the
Yes.
way. I mean, if Olivia was, 30 years old, that would be like
Yeah.
really sad
Yeah.
and horrible.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and it was so like she got a cold and then she got pneumonia. I was like, this feels so relatable to just like the world right now.
Yeah.
Yes, right? Yes. And just that whole,
and then she was just
Bailey in her
gone.
pajamas at the hospital and nobody,
Yeah.
It's such a shock when it happens that way. To just process. I mean, any death is processing, but sometimes when, and the resentment that they felt like mom never called when she needed something.
Yeah.
And then that fight, well, because she knew we weren't going to be here. It's just so normal in a family.
It
like
is.
that's the stuff that gets thrown around. Yeah.
That's totally, yeah. No, I feel the same way. I mean, my mom never tells me when there's something wrong and I have to ask her a gazillion questions about what the doctor said and she still gives me vague answers and I'm just like, for the love of God, lady, like, so I totally get it.
Lindsey, you know what you have to do? I did this with my mom because I bet with you, she wants to know everything, right? Because my mom was like, what did you do? You had a teeth cleaning today. What happened?
Yeah.
I said to her, I would never tell her even if something bad was happening unless she started telling me her regular doctor appointments. I kind of blackmailed her. She got mad, but now she tells me things.
Yeah, it's like I could just be in like the writing zone and I pick up, so I'm like kind of out of it. And she goes, are you okay? What's wrong? Are you and Dennis okay? I was like, yeah, I'm just writing. Like, it's fine, But if it's her and I'm just like, so what'd the doctor say? And she goes, oh, well, and it's like, so anyway, anyway, that's a good one though. I'll have to use that one. Listen, lady. So because you did have, kind of a number of important side characters, was there, especially with the daughters, was there somebody that resonated the most with you when you were writing?
Yeah, I really liked writing Devin because she was the middle child, the problem child. I felt like Pris and Bailey were easy. Like I kind of can get into their skin, but Devin was very complicated and thorny.
Mm-hmm.
And my original book had Bailey and Hawk getting together.
I love that you switched that up.
Yeah, well, I had it because again, and my editor, I did a first round edit before it goes to my regular editor. I have another editor look at it usually about 50% of the book just to catch anything. If I'm really going off in a different direction, I kind of like hiring that editor is like the beta reader because I don't have any beta readers I wouldn't trust. And sometimes you know how it is. You really need to know if you're going off the rails. You're very alone in the writing. And she said, I don't know. I would like to see Hawk with Devin. And I was walking one day and it was like, I was thinking, I'd have to change some things. I was like, have to change that scene, have to change that scene. And it was just like light bulb moment. I'm like, that's going to change the book. It has to be Devin. And Hawk was always meant for Devin, but I still kept it that Bailey was, because Bailey being in character still wanted to seduce him, not even wanting to seduce him, just like, hey,
it's her thing,
because this is what I do.
Yeah.
I just loved the way they got each other. The way they spoke, their banter was so just stripped down and not my usual banter. And I just love the cat, and I just love
the cat was
so random. I love it.
I just loved how the cat only loved Devin and didn't like anybody else because she's such a prickly character. So it was fun to write her and kind of like see where she was going to end up and with her prickliness, because she was always the one kind of stealing
Yeah.
the scene, you know, and when the sisters, she was the plotter and the planner, you know, we're going to do this today, this
Yeah.
day. And then they used whiteout on her planner, and they're like, wait a minute, what says we're going to the beach today? You know, is this whiteout or whatever? I just thought that was just such a cute, like, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really liked writing about her.
Good. Yeah, I feel like we all there's always a character that at least for me, I always get excited to really write those parts or whatever.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd ask. So yeah. What about you, Ella, if you have a couple questions?
Well, mine kind of relates to, mine relates to the favorite sister. So did you have a favorite when you were writing, a favorite couple? So there's kind of, well, we don't really ever get to see Bailey with Will.
Right.
So I guess that one doesn't really count.
Yeah.
But of the couples that we get to see on the page, did you have a favorite?
Well, Olivia and Rafe to me was the backbone of the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I got to write them, I was really happy. I was just happy. Like it was like I was there with them, and I was like, oh, you know, they're on the boat, and I was just like, it was wonderful. But I really had so much fun with Devin and Hawk. I just really did.
Yeah.
I loved their walks. I loved the way he was so understated as a hero. I loved the final, even when they went to bed together, like it was so subtle, you know, like they were just going to go. And again, I love my big moment in romances and the whole, you know, let me trap you by the door and ravish you or whatever.
Right.
I love all that. So it was really fun to just write on a very stripped down, subtle kind of thing, but it gave me butterflies. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
I only have my big question left.
Okay. I was wondering if this was just a question that just came to me, but have you listened to the audiobook by any chance? Do you know?
Just the sample.
Okay.
Gave me, it's fun because they gave me some choices of narrators. They only gave me like 2 or 3. And you know, I listened to their work, and then I knew right away, I was like, it's really fun to hear the casting. And then they send me a chunk of it.
Okay.
And so I listened to it just to make sure that everything was right. And then that's it, because it's very hard. I don't think I could listen to the whole book because it's still my words, and it's still kind of like, I'm like, oh God, I can't. Like some people say, like, I also hate like hearing my voice sometimes. I'm like, oh, how do people listen to me? You know how, so I'm sometimes like that with my book. I need a little more distance. Then I go back and I go, wow, I wrote this. This was a good scene because I have the distance.
Right. No, I was just wondering because I think the narration was really, really good.
It was
and
really good.
Even just, I know Rafe, the voice for Rafe, he was only there to read the letters, but even that just brought a whole other element, which was really nice to like breathe life to his character too, which I think is something that is a benefit obviously from listening to the audiobook too, because it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So well done.
I have to give kudos to Berkeley because they were really good with their audio. Same thing with Our Italian Summer. Top rated narrators gave me a choice. I told them from thing on, I want a voice for every character, like as many characters as possible, not just like one. And it's just nice to be heard. And I feel like, it must be like audio in a way, like would be people like watching a movie of their book, right? Like the actors, the actresses, it's so important to kind of like see it on the screen or something. So it's like that with audio too. And you know, you're doing auditions, right? And you're like, I got this one, I got that one.
And I am an audio, I read, that's how I read is audio these days. I very rarely read. I mean, I know I have tons of books behind me, but I don't usually actually read them. They're just there to look pretty. But I guess I read nonfiction with my eyes, but I'm pretty much all of my books are in audio. Like I am focused on audio. And so, these were great.
Cool.
This was great. It was just one.
Love it.
So we've talked about how you kind of write all the different things as far as romance goes. So is there a genre that you like really like, I wouldn't say your guilty pleasure, but the one that like you really get all giddy about when you get to write, or is it just kind of varies based on story and that sort of thing?
I have a lot of things that I want to write that's not in the basket of write this, get bills paid, write on the landing, because that's my
we know
job,
that.
and that's okay. And that's why I also go from, I'll do romance, maybe 1 or 2, and then I'll do a women's fiction. I'll be diving into, after I finish this 3rd book, I'll be working on a women's fiction book. Women's fiction takes about 5 to 6 months for a really good book, because I need to linger and I really need, it's more craft heavy,
present,
and the romance is a little bit more my comfort zone. But I've written 2 children's books, and I'd like to do 2 more. And again, that's just for me and my pleasure, and just putting it out there of stories that I used to like do with my nieces. I also love short stories, and I have working on an anthology of short stories, not romance stories. Just, I came up in my master's degree in English literature, and I love short form. I can cut my teeth on short form. There's just something so exciting about making something really big happen in a matter of words with like a twist ending. So I have no idea when that will be done. But then my big idea is, I'll get there one day, I just don't know when, is to write a book about a dog from the dog's POV.
Oh, fun.
A rescue dog with a very old grumpy man that has to like work in a very happy place like Disney.
I love it.
But he's like kind of like the guy from Up.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, so this dog is going to change him. It's kind of like my Doug and Up. Up is my favorite movie. I'm obsessed with Up. Like, so it's kind of going to be like that, but nothing that Disney could sue me on, like totally different. So yeah, so there's just so much that I love to write. There's just so many things. Yeah.
I always compare, like, because I'm the same. I mean, I tend to stay in like the same kind of buckets, but I want to write like all the things too, right?
Yeah.
But then you start getting into like pen names and all this stuff, right? So anyway, but I always kind of think of it as, it's like Skittles, because you want to like taste, say taste the rainbow. You want to like write the rainbow, you want to be like, you want to do all the things. So it's really hard.
I love that motto.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to think of Skittles every time I want to write something like off-key. That is dead on. Yeah. But I think also as writers, we're not one stop, it's hard when we're branded one way, but you have to. I just feel like you lose joy and you can go for burnout if you're not writing what you truly, truly love. And I still am, but I think as I'm getting older and more books, I need more time in between books to kind of refill the well and be fresh. And I need to write different things
and dabble in other things.
Keep me interested. Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. And I think LP does something fairly similar where I take a full month off between projects now,
So
not from work, but just from creating, because I need to like sponge in some stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And it's true, just because we're not writing, it's so hard, right? Because it's so hard sometimes. I didn't write today, I didn't work. But then I'm like, oh my God, I spent 3 hours on Facebook ads. I had 2 hours of email. I did an article, a blog post to this. And to me, I'm like, I didn't work today. So I had to get out of that mindset. It's just overwhelming.
I do the same thing. It's like, if you don't get the words down, then it's like you didn't get anything done. And it's
you
like,
didn't put anything new out into the world.
Oh, but it's so I have to, I'm pulling myself back from that. Like
isn't that funny?
That's too much.
Working for yourself, I'm sure it's the same for you. Cause like working for myself, I have become a complete workaholic. Like it's so hard to shut off. And so
all the time.
I've never worked this hard before. And yet, like you said, I'll be like, I didn't do anything today. I'm like, wait a second. I've been up since 5:30 and it's 5 o'clock and I'm finally having wine.
My gosh. Yes. Sometimes I have to write it down. Like I was talking to somebody and they're like, didn't you do this? And I'm one of those, I've got like Achiever in my top 5, but I also have like some other stuff. And so I like to kind of see things on paper with a list. And so once I wrote down a list of like everything I did today, I was like, come on, Jen, you're good.
And then this is what I've talked about this before too, because I'm also like you. I will straight up go put something on a list just to cross it off so that I can feel better.
Oh my gosh, LP, I'm with you. Everything that gets crossed off on a list is like a mini happy thing.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we could probably talk about author life forever. I just feel like it's nice that other people can relate,
Yeah.
Because to the husbands, we just, started writing a book today, or we just worked
Yeah.
on ads today, or and it's like, okay, cool. It's like, no, but there's really so much more you don't understand.
So much more.
Olaf, do you want to go ahead and ask your final question, and then we can?
Yeah, sure. I don't know why my camera's all blurry all of a sudden.
Yeah,
It does this
yeah.
sometimes. I'm like, how do I make it focus back on me? Like, here's my hand. Follow it, camera. Oh, okay. Anyway,
I don't know.
yeah. So, my final question
Yes.
is, and maybe you'll all have something in mind for this, since you like to have your fingers in the casting for the audiobook. So, if these books were, I ask everybody this, if these books were adapted to the screen,
Mhm.
do you have anyone in mind for who you would want cast as the kind of main characters?
Oh my gosh. That is such a good question. And it's so hard.
Mhm.
So horrible, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So horrible. Is there anybody? I mean, I would need a very hot Italian dude for Raphael. He would have to blow us away. You know, I'm talking like, I mean, see, guys, I'm really old too. So, I mean, like, I'm thinking like for new though, but like, I was thinking like old school. You guys probably wouldn't even know that, like Armand Desante, Antonio Banderas, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that old kind of
Mhm.
Andrew Garcia or
Yeah.
Latin, like kind of just that kind of like dark, sensitive
I can
look.
see
So
that.
I'm not sure who I would pick for that. I would so have to like look
Yeah.
at a casting list.
Right.
Well,
You're
any
like,
of
can I
them,
have options?
they could be the version that shows up at the end, you know?
Yeah. And then all of the three sisters. Well, okay, I officially flunked this question.
No, it's
Everybody
okay.
does.
I
Everybody does.
officially sucked at this
Even me.
question. It's such a good one too. Just trying to think of my favorite. I feel like a lot of my actors, isn't this terrible, like a little too old to play them?
No,
You know what
I do the
mean?
same
Like
thing.
they need to be kind of like,
No, I don't think. I think it can be whoever, because in your mind they look however you need them to
Yeah.
fit, right?
You know
so they can
who
be
Like
I
if you
any age.
could time travel and use that for casting.
yeah. Well, you know who I love? I love Amanda Seyfried. I love her. She would be in my movie in a second. And I love Rachel McAdams. I think she's so talented and multifaceted, and she could do so much.
Mhm.
So I could definitely see those two. Those are
Those
two
are great
definitely my
answers,
favorite.
yeah.
And I mean, if age was not a thing, I would go into Meryl Streep would be Olivia. I mean, hello,
Yeah.
Bridges of Madison County, when she played
Yeah.
with Clint Eastwood and stuff. Like, she's just an amazing actress.
Yeah. Those are all
So,
really good picks.
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
So far, you've answered this question better than anybody
Yes.
ever has.
Yes.
So don't
Oh,
feel like a
All right,
flunker.
cool. So I didn't flunk.
No,
Yay.
you did great. And I want to add, in my head, it's not my book. Oh, I just
Yeah.
refocused. Cool. Weird. In my head, I would do, now I just lost it. My brain. I was like saying her name in my head over and over and over again.
Is it for Olivia? For
Priscilla.
oh,
Priscilla.
And I was thinking of her because parts of this, the fact that there's like multiple women with their multiple issues going on, really reminded me of the Jane Austen book club. And she was in that, and also in lots and lots of other things.
there's a lot of actresses in that. I'm trying to.
I
think
know
of
she's
which
in,
one.
but it was her storyline that it reminded me of. That she's the teacher who hooks up with her student.
Oh, is
but
that
she's
Emily
married.
Blunt?
Yes, Emily Blunt.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. I love Emily Blunt, another character actress that can do everything.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
put her in a rom-com and
Yes.
she levels it up. Like,
Or
you know
in-
what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
layers of it.
Yeah. And she's
Love
in like
that
one
pick.
of my all-time favorite movies, which it also has Tom Cruise, but regardless of that.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow. I love
Edge
that
of
movie
Tomorrow
so
is
much.
she's so
So good.
kick-ass in that.
She is so
She is. and
badass.
she does like Mary Poppins. She's with The Rock, and then she does Kick-Ass and Edge of Tomorrow. Like, she's that is a great pick. That's going in the bucket. God, I hope a director or somebody sees this podcast, right? We'll
And
all
I
cast together.
actually think she would be the right age.
Yeah, I think so.
So anyway,
That's fun.
Just had to throw that in there.
That was fun. I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah. And I loved her storyline, Emily Blunt's character storyline in the Jane Austen book club, which I think is what that's called. That movie. And I think it's a book too, but I haven't read it. But it's like a long circle back to reuniting with her husband.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think that's what reminded me a little bit of Priscilla's like story arc was that. And so that brought her to mind. Yeah. Awesome. Good job. You actually had answers.
I just need to think a little bit.
Well, I feel like we've taken up plenty of your time. I feel like we could just keep talking because this is so much fun. Yeah. But all good things,
come to an end for a little bit.
Yes, for a little bit. Okay, so why don't you tell listeners where they can find you and any like announcements or anything that you want to leave everyone with, anything like new releases or anything like that.
Yeah. I love directing everybody to my website, jenniferprobst.com, because it's easy to navigate. Like there's a fun author video, there's all sorts of bonus contents and stories, and it's easy to go through my series and my books and figure out which one you want to start with. And they're kind of all over the map. There's some in Kindle Unlimited, there's some a little more pricey, there's some novellas, they're all over the map. And I'm everywhere I'm not on TikTok. I have an account on TikTok. I have not loaded any videos on TikTok. I'm a stalker there. But I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And I always respond to readers. If you read the book and you enjoyed it or you want to talk about it, drop me a message. It's me. It's not my assistant. I just love hearing stuff about my book. And the next one coming out is Meant to Be, which is coming out, I think, like April 11th or something like that. That'll be available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited, and the start of a new series. And go out and check out The Secret Love Letters of Olivia Moretti. It was so much fun to talk to you.
Yes, thank you.
Lindseys.
And it was such a nice book to read. It was such a lovely book. So we're just glad that you were able to come on. I do want to thank you for coming. And I also kind of want to thank you because this is kind of like a little announcement. We're going to be taking kind of a little bit of break with the podcast that we haven't really announced yet. And this was a really nice way to kind of end our first little, round. So we've been doing this for, I don't know, almost 2 years now. And we're going to kind of just take a step back and think about what we want to do with the podcast moving forward. And
we are not ending the podcast.
No, breaks are good.
But we have really busy schedules. So we just really want to figure out, how we can make it more fun and exciting for us. And, because we meet some amazing authors and we have these amazing conversations. And we just want to figure out what we want to do moving forward. So I'm really excited. But this was a great way to kind of wrap up our first big 2-year stretch.
I am so honored. We go out with a bang.
Yes. No, thank you so much. And as always, we will definitely link to everything in the show notes. So all Jennifer's information. And because we are going to be switching things up a little bit, make sure that for all you listeners out there, if you are not already in the No Shelf Control Facebook group, that you do join, because we will be posting, what's coming up for us, who our next guests are going to be, and all of that once we know. So anyway, in the meantime, everybody, please leave reviews wherever you listen, and enjoy this episode, enjoy our other episodes, and drop us a line if you have any questions. Stay safe. Happy reading adventures, everybody. And thank you again so much, Jennifer, for coming. It was so much fun.
Thank you.